Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Let's Max Warframe. Today we're going to be taking a look at a prime weapon previously considered bottom of the pile, to the extent that in the 15.5.7 hotfix they buffed it fairly significantly, the Braton Prime. Now I've not actually done a video on the Braton Prime before, but let's go through the changes that was made to it during that hotfix. Firstly, the damage was increased from 25 to 35 damage, with the majority being done as slash. A small amount being done by puncture and a pretty insignificant amount being done as impact. The status chance of the weapon was doubled from 10 to 20%, meaning that a status build on this weapon is a serious contender as a very viable build. The fire rate was also increased, making it so that it is no longer one of the slowest firing assault rifles, and the magazine size was increased from 50 to 75 rounds per magazine. There are a couple of problems with the weapon, one of which partly comes from the recent change in that hotfix. The Braton Prime had its overall ammo pool reduced to 375, which when you combine that with the fire rate increase, it can mean that you run out of ammo very quickly, if you are not careful. Although this can be somewhat mitigated by being conservative with your firing, and firing mainly in bursts to try and minimise wasted shots. It also comes with next to no impact damage, as I spoke before, which means that it's very ineffective against shielded units, things like your Corpus units or the fusion motors in the Void. However, this can be mitigated using elemental combos that I'll show when we go through the build. And one of the awesome things about the Braton Prime is it's pretty much all the parts drop from Tower 3 defense, meaning that the farm for it is actually pretty reasonable and pretty simple. The only thing that doesn't drop from Tower 3 defense is the blueprint, which drops from Tower 4 survival or Tower 2 mother defense. It also comes with a mastery requirement of 0, which it means it could be a pretty reasonable upgrade from the MK1 Braton for those newer players. Okay, so let's take a look at how we're going to mod the Braton Prime. Now the Braton Prime doesn't come with any polarities as standard, so we have to add 5 through Former. We're going to add 4 Vs and a dash. Now I know Malignant Force is currently in the wrong polarity, and the positioning of all these polarities may seem a little odd, but it will make sense a little bit later when I talk about the versatility of the weapon. Now we've got 4 mods that are going to remain the same throughout all 3 of our builds. We've got Serration, Split Chamber, Heavy Caliber, and Shred. Now Heavy Caliber is one of those ones that people are always worried about putting on a weapon because of that accuracy loss. However, the Braton Prime is so accurate at base that having this heavy caliber on, I really do not notice much of a drop in the accuracy, and it's still very, very accurate even at long range. So it's absolutely worth having it on there. Now for our Grenadier build, we're going to go with Thermite rounds and High Voltage, which is going to bring up radiation damage, and Rime rounds and Malignant Force Viral. Don't worry about the Shred in the middle there, it's not going to affect the elemental combo. The only way a mod in the middle is going to affect an elemental combo is if it's a separate elemental, which might actually change the combined elemental on the weapon. So it's not a problem to have Shred in the middle there at all. Now having a look at our Corpus build, we've got High Voltage and Rime rounds for magnetic, and we're going to boost that with Stormbringer. The same thing applies as with the Shred, because that Stormbringer is always going to add into that magnetic combo. And we got Malignant Force for Toxic. Now the reason I haven't maxed out the Toxic damage like I do on some weapons, and I've actually maxed out the Magnetic, is because the weapon does a decent amount of slash damage already, which is very good against those fleshy units, and very, very little damage that is going to be good against shields. So maxing out the Magnetic is what I feel to be the best way of doing it on this weapon. Now if we have a look at our Void build and against Infested, we're going to go with Malignant Force, High Voltage and Infected Clip for Corrosive, and for the Void we're going to go with Rime rounds for that extra damage against the shields, and Infested we'll go with Thermite rounds just for that extra heat damage. Thermite rounds obviously you could also use for the Void, but due to that low impact damage I would go with Rime rounds all the time. Now as I was talking about earlier with the positioning of the polarities and the versatility of this weapon, now if we have a look at this, at the moment we've got Shred, we've got the Corpus build on there with Shred in the middle there. Now, because of the reduced ammo capacity, not everybody is going to want shred, so especially if it's like one of those longer missions, so you could actually drop shred. You could put high voltage down there, and it would keep your magnetic and toxic damage, and then you could actually put a rifle ammo mutation up there. Because of the versatility of the weapon I was also talking about, you could actually put Stormbringer up there, and then you could put infected clip-on, which is going to max out your your toxic damage, as well as your magnetic damage, which is very good for a very good elemental build for the weapon. Now, this is the one thing I love about weapons like the Braton Prime, and it's the reason I did put that extra the extra V polarity on, because normally you don't really need it, but the reason I put it on is for that versatility. You can do a lot of different things with this weapon, plus it's also slightly future proof, so if they do bring in new weapons, new mods for the weapons, then it's likely that these format is going to protect you against that and actually give you room to put them on if you need it. So I guess the question is, have the changes made the difference and changed the Braton Prime from being bottom of the pile, the worst of the Prime weapons, into a genuine contender to become a regular part of the arsenal? And my answer to that is absolutely yes, they have. This was by far the worst Prime weapon, and actually one of the few weapons that I picked up and used and immediately put back in the box again, because I really couldn't see any potential in the weapon. Beforehand, the damage was too low, no real crit chance, barely any status, a ridiculously slow fire rate. It all added up to a weapon that just wasn't worth the cost of the former, which would only have transformed it into a middle of the pile weapon anyway. However, the changes made to the weapon in the latest hotfix really have transformed this weapon into something that was great fun to use, and when the changes came out, I immediately went ahead and put 5 former on it, and I have no regrets whatsoever. Is this buff enough to knock the Soma, the Synapse or the Bolter Prime off the top spot in terms of the best weapons in the game? Not really, no, but it does give them a great run for their money. The Braton is something I've always loved in Warframe, the design, the feel, and since it was the first weapon I ever had in Warframe, I was over the moon when it got a Prime. However, it never lived up to expectation and seriously disappointed. However, now I can be happy again, since a weapon I always wished would be good, now is. As always guys, many thanks for watching. Please remember to leave a like and subscribe, it helps me out a ton, and I shall see you in the next episode.